Hi everyone. Let's look at Oracle today. So, per usual, we'll use our ticker analysis report to grab the overview of it. You can see it's in technology. This industry is software infrastructure. You can open up the summary if you wanted to, but let's go ahead and look at Oracle here. You should be pretty familiar with Oracle. They've been around for a long time. They are, I kind of think they're like software infrastructure, and there are a ton of companies that use them for various things. You can see they're in about every industry out there. They have lots of different products for lots of different things, and they provide a lot of the infrastructure for just tons and tons of applications out there. I don't really need to go into it. I think if you guys are watching this channel, you have some um, context on what Oracle does and what they do. Let's go ahead and take a look at the news sentiment lately. What we're doing here is we're using the Alpha Vantage API to grab about 50 different news articles recently, and it provides a ticker sentiment already. So we're looking for the JSON doesn't just send back um, Oracle, it will send back blobs with other, because if you read a news story, it's typically like Oracle, Microsoft, and blah blah blah. We're doing this thing, or how does Oracle do this compared to this other company? And so it's typically lumped in together with other symbols, and we're not really interested in the other symbols. We're only interested in Oracle. So this extracts just that, and then we grab the labels and sentiment counts of that, and we put it in a pie chart. So you can see here, um, most most of the articles were neutral. There was a few out of the 50 that were somewhat bearish, and then 12% were bullish, somewhat bullish. So this gives you a good idea of like articles recently being published and whether or not they are um, what the sentiment is around them. And this is useful if you need to just get a general idea of what um, a population of articles published, what the sentiment is. And if you really wanted to go into these and look at them, you totally could. But this is just a way to plot the sentiment of the total population that you're pulling. One thing I want to correct here or add is being able to pass through dates. So I don't know, like maybe I want to say I want the sentiment over time. I don't know if that's something that this API can do, but I'm interested to see if maybe there's a way we could provide that as well. Insider holdings. Insider holdings are people that are intimate with the knowledge of the company, the inner workings of the company. If you're an insider, you have to publish whether or not you're buying or purchasing the equity that you work for. And this is a good way, I think, of just getting an idea of people in the company, whether or not they feel bullish or bearish on it. You can see most of the time they're purchasing in the last 6 months. There have been more purchases on the insider part than there have been sales of it. This doesn't count how many shares are being purchased. This just counts how many times they've put in a purchase order or a sales order in the last 6 months. But you could also get that information by going through Waihu Finance, and you just call the insider purchases part. ESG scores. ESG scores. It's totally up to you on how you want to plot that. What's going on here? Keyword error G. Don't want that. We want maybe symbol. Yes. Hey, wait a minute. Oh, maybe I gotta do. I built this using Gen Impact, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's a bug that I gotta fix. Yeah, cool. Cool, so I gotta go through that each time and figure out a way where I don't have to type this out each time. But you can see here the ASG score, and what this is showing is the box plot is Oracle compared to its industry, so other people who are providing software. Um, and you can see the box plot of their ESG scores, and you can see where Oracle lies in that metric. So total performance, it's down here in the 15. Up here, it's like 30 or whatnot. This is interesting because I thought ESG scores typically go from like 0 to 100. So the fact that their entire industry is below 50 is kind of surprising to me, unless I'm misunderstanding like the y-axis here. Um, hmm. But you can see, like, at least the idea is compared to the rest of the industry, Oracle is below, is falling shorter than other members in its industry for its total performance. The governance performance is better than most other um, members in its industry. There's some pretty extreme outliers over here, though. Social performance, it falls pretty short on. Environmental performance, it falls short on. And it also has a pretty high controversy performance. So personally, I don't consider ESG scores something that you should be making trading decisions on. But if you are maybe a longer term investor and you want to have some idea of, um, the whole idea behind ESG is that it provides a metric on these sort of um, areas that people are concerned about. High controversy performance, that might actually be something I look a little bit deeper into because it's like, what is the high controversy Oracle is doing? Are they kidnapping dolphins and doing something terrible to them or something? So that might bother you, so you might be more interested in that. I think environmental performance is like, are you cutting down like the rainforest to build data centers? Are you leveling but the thing is about these ESG scores, let's say you're like leveling trees to build a solar farm. Like, is that really environmental? I don't know. I don't know how these are calculated, but something to look into. And it's at least worth getting this box plot so that you can get an idea of where the ticker that you're interested in lies in relation to the rest of the industry. And I think when it comes to analyzing a single stock, it helps to compare it against its biggest competitors or other members in its class. So moving on from a qualitative analysis, that's what we got here. ESG, we got insider holdings and news sentiment. If you've got other ideas on what I could include in a qualitative analysis on a holding, I'd be really interested to hear it. Maybe there's a way we can build out a algorithmic way to wrangle that data and visualize that data. Moving on to quantitative, we've got a scaled price for industry competitors. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why adjusted close doesn't work anymore. I swear I've been able to. Man, I am just create type error, expected string or byte like object. I see. Maybe I'm putting ticker in here when it should be symbol. I hope this video isn't full of just um, bugs. But you can see Oracle is green, IBM and Accenture are orange and blue. Was this the best way to compare against Oracle? I don't really know if IBM and Accenture are technically Oracle's competitors. Something I can do here is when we go to compare prices, it automatically pulls other tickers within its industry class, because I think as an overview, it should be only pulling things from software infrastructure. So I believe in this case, IBM is a legitimate competitor to Oracle. I think they do provide software infrastructure, um, at least hardware infrastructure. I'm not sure. So again, we'll have to take this one for a grain of salt, but at least you get the idea. You can compare the different price points over time. And I've scaled it because Accenture and IBM are going to have totally different price points, but we're still interested to see, since they're technically supposed to be part of the same industry, um, how it moves together comparatively. And I did not prepare for this, so you can see I still have it. I just did Gen Impact before this video, so I'm gonna have to make some adjustments to it. But you can see where Oracle is for its price per earnings ratio comparison. And it's important to compare price per earnings ratio comparison to other companies within its industry. So I'm wondering actually if we go to like Yahoo Finance, let's just look at Oracle's competitors here. So if we do software industry, software infrastructure, and I wish there was a way I could just pull this actually. Might have to look into that. So it looks like Microsoft, Adobe, Palantir. Let's do Microsoft. MSFT. Let's do Adobe as well. ADBE. ADBE, and we'll get rid of these guys. Let's say we're not that interested in them. Let's also do that up here with these. T. Is that an AB? Adobe, that sounds better. ABDE, that must not be it. ADBE, I had it right the first time. Dang it. There we go. And so yeah, now we get a better idea of like how Oracle performs against its competitors in software industry. You can see that Adobe has had a rough time recently. Um, but Microsoft also was looking real good, but really Oracle is the only one that has like this nice steady upward trend. These guys, Adobe has a downward trend, and it looks like Microsoft has kind of got this very, very gradual sloping up compared to Oracle here. So that's why it's important to compare it against other members in its industry. And you can see even Oracle has a higher price per earnings ratio compared to its other competitors here. And, it's really up to you to make that decision, but a higher price per earnings could possibly mean that it's overvalued, whereas a lower could possibly mean that it's undervalued. So, but we don't want to evaluate a stock based on one ratio. So let's go ahead and look at our others. Return on equity, and the return on equity is much higher, and higher equity is considered a gauge for its efficiency in creating profit. So if you're considering Microsoft and Adobe and you're looking at price per earnings is higher, and you might say, well, that makes sense then. Like it's valued to be higher for each earning because it's a lot. It provides a lot greater return on the equity there. Let's look at its leverage. So debt to equity comparison. So it's got way more debt to its equity than the other companies, and that might be something that's considered, a much higher risk. So that might be, so it's important to look at other ratios that give you this context, right? EBITDA, look, EBITDA is one of those things I'm totally still on the fence about. It's like it stands for your equity before interest, taxes, depreciation, and I forget what the asset, maybe it's assets. I don't know. But it's not something that generally accepted accounting principles requires companies to put on their statements. It's something that was just, I think, totally made up by someone as a way to calculate it's an equity before your taking into account all these things that take away from it. And look, some people think it's a solid metric, others do not. That's really up to you to decide. But I threw it in here because I've heard a lot of noise around it. Let's say you just want to look at what other analysts think of Oracle. And we're looking at 35 analysts here. Most of them think it's a buy or a strong buy, with several just saying hold. So that's interesting. No one's saying that you should be going out and selling Oracle, at least the analysts, these 35 analysts over here. So again, that provides you a little bit more context. Cool. So now we're on the section where we're going to provide a bit of advanced speculation, I like to call it. I call it speculation because by no means is this something where, although we're using deep learning and we're using machine learning, we're using advanced statistics and time series forecasting to discover whether or not this might be a buy for us or not. I want to just put caution to anyone watching that although this is, algorithmic, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're risk free or that you're reducing some kind of risk by taking this method. I'm totally self-taught, so we are going to use um, an ARIMA model, which is a forecasting model, time series forecasting model. But the problem with forecasting models is it tries to produce a price point in the future forecast. And we're not super interested in a specific price point in the future. We're more interested in whether or not there's a likelihood of the price moving up or down. And I think one way, at least one interesting way that I was reading, is that you can combine a Monte Carlo simulation that will take the average of the forecast and create a maximum and minimum interval. And then from there, we can plot whether this Monte Carlo simulation believes, based on the forecast of our time series machine learning model, whether it'll go up or down, or where this minimum and maximum interval price point is for the future. So I'm going to walk us through how to build this. And there's going to be a lot of dense code here. And if you take a look at some of my comments, these are based off of a tutorial that I was watching, or actually I was reading it. And so if there are some things that I haven't changed here, that is why. You can see I didn't even change it from the last time I opened up this with Gen Impact. So there will be probably some instances where I have to adjust the code. But let's get started. So the end and start date, the end date is the day that I'm making the video, whatever it is today. And then the start date of our time series is going to be 7 years ago from our end date, which is today. We pass that through Y Finance. So we're going to be using Y Finance. I know price points for different equities is different. So if you use a higher quality data source for price, you're probably going to have better results here. But we're just going to use what's available to us for free, which is Y Finance. And this gives us an idea of what the price looked like in the past 7 years. And this is pretty great. Around here is just over 40. Even in 2020, it had a small dip, but since then, it's just grown insane. It's had a huge, huge bull run, in my opinion, except for the exception of over here. But even if you bought down here, you'd be looking pretty good with Oracle. So that's nice to see. Let's see if we can calculate. Let's see if we can forecast where it's going from here. Is it worth buying down here? Is it just going to keep going up? We'll find out. So when we plot the autocorrelation function, we can see what we're trying to find here is stationarity, which is, does it change over time with our lag? And you can see that it's not stationary. So we perform it again, an ADF again, but what we're doing here is we're taking the difference and dropping any data points where it's null. We might do that because, let's say, on the weekend, um, it's not there or something like that, or maybe we haven't cleaned up our there shouldn't be anything like that, honestly, but maybe there is, so we drop it. You can see that it's a lot more stationary here. There are some things that fall outside of it, but for the most part, we'll call it stationary. So what we're doing here is we're performing an ADF test on the whether when we pass through um, whether it's not constant, constant, or constant plus linear. And constant trend is sometimes another form of it. And you can see when we're doing it twice. So we're doing it where we're not taking the log of it, and then we're doing it where we are using the log of it. And you can see that the p-value is 0 down here, so it's a lot more stationary. So that's what we'll use. And interesting. We're taking the residuals, and if someone could explain to me residuals like I'm 5, that would be awesome, because I get the idea that the residuals help tune the model later on, and looking at this density here, um, I'm still struggling to really understand like what residuals are and how taking them into account with our model um, creates a better performing model. So if someone has more time series experience, that would be awesome. If you could explain to me like I'm an idiot. Cool. So now we're doing it again. And I should have. It's probably going to throw me a warning here because I didn't set the frequency, but maybe not. For some reason, it's not doing that. Did I fix that since last time? Anyway, in a tangent. So what are we doing here? We are just essentially testing our ARIMA model, and we are taking the train. We're putting that as our history. We're taking the log of our train as a float, and we're making it into history, and then we're passing it through our ARIMA model, and we're fitting it, and then we're taking a forecast of it. So it's going through each step of the index, each day, and then it's taking and it's getting a forecast, and then we're appending that forecast object to our prediction, and then we are taking the observant, what we observe for our index in our history here, so that we know what point the forecast connects to our comparison in our training here, right? And then we concatenate it, and then we calculate the mean squared error, and then we show what it looks like. So you can see that the mean squared error is 6.499, 6.5, probably what I would round it up to. And it follows it pretty close. Like this is pretty solid, but you can see that it's still lagging behind the movement. So with the exception of maybe down here, you can see that it's forecasting like, yep, you're going to go down. Although it started going down, yeah. So even I would say that this is not super accurate because it's really just forecasting after it's seen the movement, right? So it's not super, super strong forecasting here. So this is where we start tuning the residuals and fitting it so that when we move on to our Monte Carlo interval calculations and where we take each forecast, we can take into account um, our residuals as well. And that will make more sense when we get down there. I'm just going to start running that as soon as this is finished too. So this fitter and fit summary, the tutorial I was following um, admittedly used this, but the creator of it did not give me a very strong, what's the word? They didn't, there's a woman putting her child in a Spider-Man costume on the railing of this parking garage, and it's freaking me out. Sorry. The child is like not very old. It's like a small child. It's kind of scary. Okay, she got him down. Geez, some parents are insane. As a new parent myself, like I would never do that. But hey, because she's like 5, 6 stories up. It's okay. Sorry, I got so confused. So I don't know much about residuals and like what D gamma is, logistic, gen logistic, BER 12. I'm guessing these are different ways of like AIC, BIC, KL, div, and all this. The p-value I have some idea of, but I've never heard of a KS p-value or a KS statistic, right? Um, but if you wanted to look at your residuals, this is the thing that would help you look at it, I'm guessing, and help you tune it. But admittedly, I wish the person who wrote the tutorial did a little bit more, gave me a little bit more information on what exactly we're doing here. So I am still learning about this. I'm sure in the next video I'll have a better understanding of it. Cool, so let's move on to the more interesting thing. So here we're making a Laplace Monte Carlo simulation, and a Laplace Monte Carlo simulation assumes that our distribution is one where it's a Laplace distribution, but that might not always be the case for um, kind of um, every kind of distribution out there. So there might be some adjustments we need to make here as well to create a better algorithmic um, test here. But basically what we're doing is we're basically doing that simulation where we pass through the number of simulations that we want. We take the average and the residuals that we're passing through, we calculate it, and we return the estimated range um, from that information that we're passing through the Monte Carlo simulation. Similar to what we were doing above, we pass through the train, the test, our standard deviation, and the number of simulations that we want. Those will float down. So when we're going through each step of our data frame and we're getting that forecast and we're taking that y-hat, we then pass the y-hat into our Laplace Monte Carlo that does the number of simulations given our standard deviation. It will get the range, the max and minimum range. We will attach the observed index to our history, and then our predictions that we've been concatenating to or appending to. We'll clean it up so that when we return the prediction, we can then plot it with all of our with the actual price movement with the interval as well. So you can see here that um, we've that we get our test prediction with our rolling forecast. We've passed through our stock train to fit the model, and then we get our test. We tune the residuals. So the tuned residuals are the residuals we calculated from above, and so that's going to be going. That's our standard deviation. Our standard deviation goes to our Monte Carlo, which is our residuals up here, right? Okay, cool. And then this is just getting those min and max. This here prints the actual stock price versus our intervals. And then this is just to help us plot everything. You'll see here what that looks like. So percentage of actual stock prices and predicted stock is 99%. So the only time it only falls out of this interval range 1% of the time, which is pretty accurate. So the red is the maximum Monte Carlo interval. This is the minimum Monte Carlo interval. So it's taking the forecast and then it calculates the min max, and then that's what we're using. We would use the min max to decide in the future whether or not whether our price movement is moving up or down, and what interval price we could expect. And so that's what I've done here. It's not as interesting to look at because you can see here like this is how accurate our intervals are. But this here just like throws out again a price interval that you would expect in the next 20 days. I don't know how accurate this is because you can see this is weekly, and so 20 days is like what? That's like 2 weeks and a half, like, right? So it's only 2 weeks. But yeah, so this is what we get in the end. You can see I'm going to do Cavallo Calavo growers next. But this is our prediction here. One thing I want to throw out there is that I am creating a website where you can find a full breakdown of each stock ticker that I look at. You'll be able to download the code here and modify it any way you want. You can see it's in September. So the idea is here I would publish this along with several other stocks like Calavalo growers. I did Gen Impact in this period as well. Um, and if you become a member, a premium member, you'd be able to get those documents, and you'd be able to get the monthly stock analysis the month that it's published. Otherwise, if you just sign up for free, you'll still get it as a member, but you would get it kind of lagged. So if this was published in September, you wouldn't get it until we were into the next quarter. So like December or January, we're somewhere around there. I haven't done this a whole lot, so if you come over here and you don't see anything, I I don't suggest signing up to be an investor unless you really want to support what I'm doing. Um, if that is how you feel, you will you will move things along for me a lot faster than me just doing it on my own. But what I'm thinking is you'll get the monthly stock analysis. You'll get anything else that I make premium. So if I do, I'm planning on doing other portfolio analyses, other notebooks that do, hedging beta, or we'll do some stuff where it's, just anything algorithmically financed that's premium content that isn't going to be a recurring thing. You'll get that as well. You'll get comment permissions. So when I publish this in an article, say, because right now it's just code, but the idea is that I'd put um, other commentary on there, and you'd be able to interact with other people, other investors. You'll be able to download the code for free. Well, not for free. If you pay this, you'll be able to download it. Whereas if you are just free, you won't be able to download it. Discounts on products in the future. So if I'm offering other things, other tools, data that I've collected, um, you'd be able to get a discount, a pretty huge discount, especially if you're paying me $34 a month. I'd give you a pretty huge discount, if not for free. So yeah, that's what is coming down the pipeline. At the very least, I suggest signing up for free. That way you can get everything as it rolls out. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.